Hello, everyone. Welcome to the finals of the StarCityGames.com Baltimore Open Weekend, part of Season 1 of the 2018 SCG Tour, brought to you by the wonderful people over at Ultimate Guard and Twitch. We're going to turn our attention to a little standard action here in the finals, as Brandon DeCandio and James Liu will shake hands. It's Black-Green Constrictor. It's White-Blue Midrange. Liu will be on the plate. He'll start things off with a Blooming Marsh. Looks like a Glacial Fortress here for DeCandio.
So, Black-Green Constrictor, we've talked about this a little bit earlier in the weekend. Jaden Complarens wrote a very good article a few weeks back about whether or not the card Lenore Elves deserved an inclusion in Constrictor. She said no. I think specifically she meant in the Hadana's Climb versions because Servant of the Conduit provided energy for things like Bristling Hydra, while also helping you attain blue mana for your Hadana's Climb splash. In this straight black-green version, that is packing the full 4 Adventurous Impulse. I think Lenoro's is significantly good. Like, it gave this deck the boost it needed to make the comeback that it needed.
Okay.
And we've seen this weekend over and over again, Black-Green Constrictor from James Liu paired up against these white X mid-range decks and smushing them.
I think it's a pretty good spot here for James Liu. Though his J-Light Ranger will not resolve, his Glint Sleeve Siphoner has resolved. So, we're going to head back over to DeCandio now.
Yeah, DeCandio's deck is built in a bit of a strange way. He has a lot of flash elements. He has main deck counter spells as well as, a bunch of sorcery speed stuff too. So there's, right now he has the option to play a Walking Ballista on 1, kill the Glint Sleeve Siphoner, which will get out of control if left unhindered. But he also might want to hold up like a Negate, an Essence Scatter, or something like that.
Well, DeCandio's got a decision to make here, as he will play Walking Ballista, take care of Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and simply pass the turn back over to James Liu. So we'll see what James Liu can do, as he'll draw a card. And now here's a Walking Ballista for 2.
Not the most threatening 4-drop. Walking Ballista is pretty good, and if paired with a Virgil's Gearhulk next turn, could spell disaster for Brennan.
DeCandio is going to cycle a Cast Out and draw a Cast Out for the turn. Does have 4 mana. He'll play a Plains. And we'll see if DeCandio will simply be passing the turn back or not.
As I said, he has a lot of cards that he can play at instant speed. He also has an uncrewable Heart of Kirin. He has very few ways to crew Heart of Kirin in his deck, but it does pair nicely with his slew of Planeswalkers, which he has quite a few of.
Yeah, Karns and Teferis, among others, here for DeCandio, as we're going to head back over, I believe, to James Liu, after DeCandio does deploy that Heart of Kirin. So to James, we're going to go in with the Walking Ballista for 2. This will be a copy of Seal Away. Walking Ballista will go deal 2 damage upstairs over to DeCandio. Brandon going to fall down at 16. Here's another Walking Ballista for 2. And DeCandio is doing pretty well right now, all things considered.
Oh, for sure. He's stifled all of the early development from James Liu's Constrictor deck. This is exactly what you need to do to be able to win this matchup. I would like him to hit another land drop here so he could play Gideon of the Trials, tick up, and hold up Negate. But he can just go ahead and cast a Gideon here, tick up on the Walking Ballista if he so chooses. Or he can play a Shalai and crew that Heart of Kirin. All options at his disposal.
Shalai a 2 of, Gideon the Trials a 2 of here for DeCandio this weekend.
I actually heard a lot of people talking about how good Gideon of the Trials was for them, especially in the black-white deck. Not only is it a means of pressure for the control decks, a 3-mana 4/4 effectively, but stalling your opponent's best creature, also pretty swell, and another sweet, big creature for 3 mana to crew your Heart of Kirin.
Here's Virtuous Gearhulk. That is going to be an 8/8 Virtuous Gearhulk as we head back over to DeCandio.
All right, I have one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is he big?
Yes. Yes, he is. This here is a Gideon of the Trials. That's going to slow down Virtuous Gearhulk. This is part of the appeal of Gideon the Trials. It's going to now minus and allow Heart of Kirin to come on in here. So DeCandio doing a nice job of taking care of this big Virtuous Gearhulk while still being able to get in a bunch of damage.
Yeah, smashing in for big chunks here, definitely what Brennan needs to do. The Constrictor deck can become overwhelming over time with more copies of Virtuous Gearhulk, Winding Constrictors with all of the synergies there. So yeah, definitely look for Brennan to be a little aggressive with his Heart of Kirin if he can be.
looks like Ross Merriam wins game number 1 of Modern as L's very quickly up a game here over Alexander Ferzola. Don't say it.
Told ya.
Yeah.
Told you.
Yep.
Wrote that. Just throwing out all the hits. I don't even remember the other ones.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking.
I'm pretty sure no one else does either.
This will be a copy of Rascal's Contempt to take care of Gideon.
Smart there, and another great use of playing your instance when your opponent cannot counter them. Main phase your stuff more often.
We'll head back over to DeCandio, who picked up a copy of Glacial Fortress, has that Heart of Kirin on the battlefield. Glacial Fortress will be land number 5 for perhaps Teferi number 1. He is playing a couple copies of Teferi this weekend. Haven't seen the Hero of Dominaria for a couple of rounds, but 3 main deck copies here for DeCandio in his deck.
Yeah, part of me is wondering how difficult it would be to actually splash Teferi in these really powerful black-white mid-range decks. They occasionally transform into a more controlling deck after sideboard with things like Settle the Wreckage or Fumigate. And something like Teferi seems like it would fit perfectly. I don't know if it's worth the splash necessarily, but it could be.
Here's Karn. Going to minus to make a construct, and then minus again to let Heart of Kirin get in for 4 and pass the turn back. Now, of course, Karn is staring down a really big Virtuous Gearhulk here as we head back over to DeCandio.
Second Virtuous Gearhulk, attack for 12.
That would be a really good turn.
Ow!
That's what that would be. How many copies of Virtuous Gearhulk we got over there?
He's got 3.
Okay. I think people expect a little bit more out of that 5-mana green artifact creature. Not a bad card, obviously, but maybe not a card you can just play 4 of.
Well, you can play 4 of it if you have heart.
Try really hard.
Yeah, I mean, Virtuous Gearhulk's one of those cards where it's either the best card in your deck and you want to draw multiple, or it's kind of like an afterthought. And 3 always feels like the wrong number to me. I think like 2 or 4.
I do think the card's good. Maybe it's prime for an uptick, as we have Black Green Constrictor in the finals here.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to come back after this showing from Black Green Constrictor. If he loses this match, maybe people are like, oh, it's not that good.
Nah, I think it's good.
I think this deck's great. Notably, 3 copies of Ravenous Chupacabra in the main deck and only 2 copies of Rascal's Contempt. A direct result of cards like the Scarab God falling out of favor in the last couple of weeks.
All right, Deadlands is going to kill the Construct, and now Virtus Gearhulk is going to kill Karn. So now DeCandio is going to untap and draw.
I like that play. DeCandio did not have many ways to crew the Heart of Kirin, and just smashing him with the Gearhulk to kill the Karn, I think, is fine.
Shalai is going to come down, and it's going to crew Heart of Kirin and attack for 4. So, Virtus Gearhulk is still enormous. And DeCandio's last card in hand is a copy of Negate. What he's really looking for is a Seal Away or a Cast Out, or, of course, Teferi to tuck Virtus Gearhulk away.
Yeah, normally a large creature without hexproof or shroud or whatever, not that difficult for these white-blue mid-range decks to deal with. They have, a bunch of copies of Seal Away, some copies of Settle the Wreckage. Wow.
That's another Gearhulk.
Do we put all the eggies in a basket?
Well, it looks like 2 and 2.
Okay.
That'll answer your question. Here's an attack for, let's make it 10.
10 ball. Put you at 4?
Yep.
What's up?
Well, what DeCandio needs is to Settle the Wreckage, but those are not in his main deck. So, Brennan's going to draw a card. Looks like he picked up another copy of Heart of Kirin.
Nice.
Not what the doctor ordered.
No.
We are done with this one. As James Liu going to win game number 1 here over Brendan DeCandio. Black-Green Constrictor up a game here over White-Blue Midrange.
I respect a man who knows when he's dead. Picks them all up real fast.
He's dead.
Doesn't wait to get attacked. They know the deck list. He's not going to play around Settle the Wreckage because it does not exist.
Yeah, not there in game number 1, but it will be ready for game number 2, and we'll talk about that game in just a minute. We are back getting ready here for game number 2 between James Liu and Brendan DeCandio. It's Black Green Constrictor and White Blue Midrange. DeCandio down a game, so we'll start there with the 3 copies of Forsake the Worldly, 2 Fall of the Thran, 2 Wrath Capuchin, Ship's Mage, 2 Settle the Wreckage, 2 Fumigate, 2 Negate, a Jace's Defeat, and a Seal Away. I think a couple of these removal spells are standing out to me. How about you?
Oh, for sure. I fully expect Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate to come in. If you take a look at the Black Green Constrictor deck list, it's mostly creatures with some instants and 1 copy of Vraska Relic Seeker. Everything else dies of Fumigate.
Yeah.
As far as the Forsake the Worldly, it could be a nice answer to a very large Vergis Gearhulk, which we saw last game, and it cycles in a pinch, but that's basically all that it can target.
We're going to go over to James Lou's side. He's currently up a game. He's got 4 Duress, 3 Thrashing Bronson on 2 Lifecrafters Bestiary, 2 Death Gorge Scavenger, an Aethers for Harvester, Vraska Relic Seeker, Cast Down, and a Fatal Push. What are we liking?
You know, if you expect Brennan to morph into this more controlling deck, he already has quite a few hits for Duress in his deck already. So I could definitely see Duress coming in. Thrashing Bronodon seems like an all-star. 3 mana, 3/4 at the very least, but at most he's going to be soaking a removal spell and also getting rid of one of the Seal Aways or Cast Outs or Hearts of Kieran that are already in play. Aside from that, you can keep going for the anti-control route, like Crasher's Bestiary, not so bad. Another Vraska Relic Seeker to help take down these enchantments.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how James will go about sideboarding here. Brennan does have a couple of controlling tools there in Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate, and perhaps he will prepare for those accordingly. But while these two players do shuffle up here for game number 3, we will talk one last time here about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale. It's your opportunity to save up to 20% off of a couple of modern singles, including Windswept Heath, Hallowed Fountain, Bloodbraid Elf, and, of course, the very powerful Abrupt Decay. It's going to end tomorrow morning at 10:59 a.m. East Coast time. Go to StarCityGames.com/weekly sales, where you're going to want to head. Don't have a lot of time left, as I did mention, but do keep in mind that we will have a new weekly sale for you at 11 a.m. East Coast time tomorrow. So make sure you just bookmark that website. Go to StarCityGames.com/weekly sale as we get ready here for game number 2 between Lou and DeCandio. You see the scoreboard there. Our Ocean Eapen did win game number 1 over Tan and Gray, so Saltai Delver up a game over Grixis Delver. You got Ross Merriam up a game here over Alexander Ferzola with Elves over Humans, and then James Lou up a game here over Brennan DeCandio, Black Green Constrictor over White Blue Midrange. You can go ahead and say your
Told
catchphrase. There you go. There you go.
It's not yet.
Yeah.
It's not there yet.
Yeah.
But this is basically exactly what I predicted.
Yes.
Classic.
Not your first rodeo.
It ain't my hundredth.
Yes. We'll start off with an irrigated farmland and a woodland cemetery.
So it looks like Brennan does have potentially a turn 3 History of Benalia. On the play, we've seen that card be significantly good. On the draw against the Black Green Constrictor deck, it's not quite as good as it could be.
This is the card that I think Brennan has the most trouble with, and why I think that this is not a good matchup for white-based aggressive decks like what we've seen this weekend. They don't really have the ability to just kill Winding Constrictor. So if Winding Constrictor never attacks into a Seal Away, and clearly it can attack now if it wants to, but then it would be tapped for Seal Away, I think this is actually a problematic permanent for white aggressive decks to be able to defeat, because Winding Constrictor, when it is just allowed to do its thing, like now, is a problem.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to ask you, he big?
He big.
All right, there it is.
History of Benalia will make another 2/2, but now, DeCandio needs an answer to Winding Constrictor now, because now things are really going to start to get out of control, I think.
Yeah, so there's this really old fight between conditional white removal spells and creatures that are great even when they don't have to tap or attack. You saw this a long time ago with things like Condemn in the same format as Dark Confidant. Now you're seeing it with Seal Away with stuff like Winding Constrictor as well as Glint Sleeve Siphoner. The fact that he can use Duress here to potentially take away something like a Seal Away or Settle the Wreckage.
Yep.
Now, even though he doesn't hit here, it's a bunch of creatures. Coast is clear. Smush in for 8.
Well, Wrath Caption is in hand.
Sure. Double blocks, yeah, get blown out.
That could happen. You see
we'll
the hand
see.
there. 2 copies of Shalai, Walking Ballista, and then Wrath Caption. Curious to see exactly what's going to happen. Well, I'm less curious now.
Squash.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, I think I'd be fine trading Winding Constrictor for Wrath Caption, personally.
If you have the opportunity. There's Wrath Caption. Well, so DeCandio wants a block here. Obviously, no mana available. But Wrath is on the battlefield. We'll let you know that our modern match there between Alexander Ferzola and Ross Merriam going to game number 3. Humans, Elves, all tied up. This match could be 2, though James Lou is in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, this is a particularly interesting combat step. Since both players know their deck list, Brennan doesn't really have to fear something like Blossoming Defense, for example. He's tapped out to only 3 lands, so Vraska's Contempt not an issue. And you can probably guess at this point that Fatal Push is not in James's deck, as its only real target is Heart of Kiran. So I think that the double block there, or maybe even a triple block if he wants to, is certainly fine. Losing the Wrath Cabochon makes the deck a little worse, which is why I really like Wrath Cabochon in the main deck.
I like that as a card quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. It just changes how your entire deck functions. It's awesome.
Lifecrafter's Bestiary, a card that we'll take a look at here in just a moment. It looks like James saw the second card down, not the first one. With the Scry, not entirely positive here. But okay, it looks like we're good to go.
So, notably, the History of Benalia did pump the Vigilance Knights, and they were able to crash in for 8. So, a big swing in life totals, even though it still feels like the Black-Green Constrictor deck is the aggressor here. And Ravish Chupacabra. Oh, boy.
That is going to eat Shall I draw James a card and be able to play defense against these Knights. This is exactly what Patrick Sullivan was talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw Vraska's Contempt kind of take the slot away from Ravish Chupacabra when so many creatures needed to be exiled. But these white decks are playing a ton of creatures like Shalai, Lear Dawnbringer, things that don't mind if they just go to the graveyard. And Ravish Chupacabra being able to be found off of Adventurous Impulse gives the Black-Green Constrictor deck a level of consistency, as well as just a very powerful 4-drop that's another creature to put counters on with Verdurous Gearhulk and Rishkar.
Teferi looking awesome on this particular turn, as it's going to put Rishkar back into the deck. There are no creatures on the battlefield there for James Liu, so now things get very, very difficult for James because he's got to reassemble, and while he's busy reassembling, Teferi will be drawing cards and untapping lands and making life difficult.
Nah, Ballista, here it come.
He better have one. Say that much.
He ain't scared. He does not look like a man who is scared. I'm wrong.
Yep, there's Jadelight Ranger. Jadelight Ranger is going to draw a card from Lifecrafter's Bestiary.
Yeah, that's when you cast. You draw a card first.
And then the exploring will take place.
Yeah, the Rishkar are going to be that next card. I kind of feel like it's a little too late for the Rishkar. Maybe just dig a little deeper, try to find that Ballista. He could choose to leave it on top on the first one and bin it on the second one. That way to guarantee the 2 counters. But he just decides he wants it.
Well, Rishkar will be coming back, it appears, as we'll head back over to DeCandio. He's got an active Teferi.
Yeah, and this is where the blue-eyed decks really start to stretch their legs. You know, you get to start drawing cards with Teferi, using mana on your turn, untapping it, holding up mana on theirs. With so many cards that Brennan can play at instant speed, thanks to the flash mechanic, I'm liking Brennan's chances in this game.
I think Brennan's doing okay in this game, that's for sure. Teferi is a very difficult card to play against, a lot going on here. And of course, with the ability to untap mana and be able to play on both his turn and his opponent's turn, there's a lot to like because Brennan's deck is definitely constructed in such a way that some of the numbers do look a little bit weird, but that's because he wants to play a little bit on the opponent's turn, a little bit on his own, with cards like Cast Out and playing Shalai right away.
Yeah, Shalai here notably is going to protect Teferi from something like Walking Ballista, which is nice, as well as protecting the Night token from the Inferior Deadlands that is threatening to force a chump block from Shalai to keep the Teferi alive.
We're going to see a Field of Ruin here, it looks like in the draw step, perhaps, by Brennan DeCandio. And that is going to take care of the Deadlands. So both players will get to search up a basic.
Heads up play. The Scry from Bestiary was left on top. It was the Rishkar. Brennan's a little scared of it, so he wants to get rid of it. You also want to try to keep the Black-Green Constrictor deck off of creatures at this point, because every creature draws an extra card with Lifecrafter's Bestiary.
Alright, so players will shuffle, cut, present all that jazz, and now James Liu will draw a card as we work our way deeper into game number 2 between Black-Green Constrictor and White-Blue Midrange.
Oh. That looked like a promo Fatal Push.
That is a fatal push.
And because he got Field of Ruined, he has Revolt.
Mm-hmm.
That takes care of the Shalai. Now if he can get rid of that Night token, somehow he can finish off that Teferi this turn, and then Brennan's in some trouble.
Oh, there's your jump block right away.
All right. Would have loved to have seen another Ravenous Chupacabra, killing that Night token, drawing a card, putting more pressure on the battlefield.
Here's another copy of Jade Light Ranger. This will draw a card and now explore not once but twice. Take a look.
Yeah, we're going to keep that one.
Yeah, Vraska Relic Seeker is here to stay.
Ferzola will play as Vraska Seas. She is insanely powerful.
Yeah, in the right games, it's really, really a good card. You see Brennan wants to take a look at Vraska. We're going to do the same here. Read all the abilities of the Relic Seeker. It is a very, very powerful Planeswalker, as DeCandio will draw a card.
I'll tell you what it does. It's a +1, very good. That's not right. +2, very good.
I'll tell you what.
-3, even better.
Just
-10, who cares?
Just wrong immediately.
Classic.
+2, create a 2/2 fire creature token with menace. -3, destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. Create a colorless treasure artifact token. And then, of course, a -10 target player's life total becomes 1. Being able to destroy an enchantment, I think, is maybe the most important part of that card with how many cast outs and other things are running around here. As there's a Fumigate from DeCandio. James showing off that Thrashing Brontodon.
Yeah, don't need it. Now that Fumigate, a very big draw from Brennan cycling into it with the irrigated farmland. You know, that's kind of the dream later in the game when you cycle one of your extra lands. You really need it to hit something big. A sweeper effect that took care of 2 4/3s, both that would threaten to kill Teferi, and now he's able to untap with Teferi yet again.
Vraska's going to come on down. Teferi's still on the battlefield here for Brennan, however, as he picks up a copy of Glacial Fortress.
Oh no, he knows about the Brontodon now. The cast out is maybe not even very good.
The cast out has gotten worse. That is for sure. It's definitely gotten worse. And Walking Ballista's got to go a long way to take care of the Vraska. So, Brennan's going to start by drawing a card.
If you draw something like Essence Scatter, Disallow, you know, he can take care of the Brontodon before it becomes troublesome. I think your best bet is to probably just go ahead and use Cast Out on the Vraska and maybe scare James a little bit, you know. he threw the Brontodon on the table. Like, this ain't good.
Well, I've got an Essence Scatter for your Brontodon, so how about that? Maybe a little bluff action?
Maybe. No, see, this is not the face of a man who's bluffing. This is the face of a man who knows he's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. The glasses keep coming on and off here for Peter Parker.
I remember a story of Kent Ketter taking off his glasses once on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, like, rubbing his eyes, and then he just tapped his lands wrong.
He did,
and lost because of it.
Yeah.
That was maybe the worst thing I have ever seen.
That was a tough one to watch.
I felt really bad for him.
These situations get difficult. These players are in the finals.
Under pressure.
Yeah.
Down a game. Teammates counting on you.
We're going to go to 4 on the Walking Ballista, 2 mana untapped. And now James Liu is going to scry. We'll see where this card's going to go.
Usually the big Walking Ballistas are on the other side.
And this is true. Walking Ballista, equal opportunity.
Can we please get James to only put 1 die on top of this
No,
deck?
I like that.
This
Actually,
is excessive.
Actually, I enjoy the 3 die strategy because it's just impossible to forget. It is legitimately impossible to forget to scry.
I've seen multiple people put something on top of their deck and still forget whatever thing they were trying to remind
I've put a die on top, like a single die, and just been like, well, get this out of here. I want to see my next card.
Yeah.
If I have 3 dice, just weighing my deck down, not going to miss. All right, 2 shots from the Walking Ballista. Uh-oh. Oh, boy, that's some gamesmanship there. DeCandio takes 2 of the dice off his deck. Can he even do that?
Maybe the judge told him.
Is he even allowed to do that?
I very much dislike touching my opponent's deck. Whenever I Gaunty them, I always politely ask them to pull the cards off for me. I don't want to be that guy. You know.
So Vraska's going to go down now. Oops. Vraska's going to go down to 3. And now here's Glint Sleeve Siphoner. plus draw a card, of course, because of the Bestiary. And now
What?
there's Jade Light Ranger.
Livecrafter's Bestiary playing a very good Teferi impression right now. Just drawing so many cards.
Yeah, Jade Light Ranger ain't doing bad either.
That's true. That's true.
There's a hub.
That's
This is Adventurous Impulse, yeah.
nice. That still leaves him with 2 energy for the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. It's just more threats that Brennan has to deal with. And that's one of the coolest things about this Black Ring Constrictor deck. He was so far behind. Cast Vraska, started ticking up, put some pressure on Brennan to deal with it. Accidentally threw his Thrashing Bronodon on the table to give away that he had an answer for the cast out. Completely changed what Brennan did in the previous turn. But look how far ahead he is right now. He has Bestiary, Planeswalker, 2 really solid creatures against just a Planeswalker.
Yeah, this is really bad news for DeCandio. Look, Teferi is the hero of Dominaria, and it's a heck of a Magic card, but I don't know if it can overcome all of this.
Yeah, but Vraska's a pirate.
Yeah, yeah,
So we all know how that goes.
yeah. I'm not sure.
She gonna steal the game from Brennan.
You do see the other matchups there between Tan and Grace and Rosh Eapen, and of course Alexander Ferzola and Ross Merriam. They're all tied up 1 apiece. Brennan's trying to drag this along to a 3rd game too, as best he can. Quite the uphill climb though, because James Liu just keeps drawing cards. There's a Heart of Kirin. And this is a Plains.
It's very, very good. I don't know if it's exactly at its best in this particular matchup. Or maybe not this particular matchup. It's very good. I really like Teferi in the pure control decks where you're able to untap and use the full force of your mana on your opponent's turn. Like the Teferi untap, hold up, settle the wreckage is disgusting. I love it.
It's a very, very hard play to beat. As here's a cast out on Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and now DeCandio will pass the turn back. Little scry here from the Bestiary. Bestiary great in situations like this. These mid-range mirrors are right at home here. See what James is going to be up to this turn.
You might want to use Bronodon to protect from the Heart of Kirin. Keep his Vraska around. Or keep his Vraska high. It's going to go to 5, so it can still survive. But you want to keep it at least at 3, so you always have the option to tick down.
There's old Bronte. Draw a card.
Livecrafter Bestiary has been burying Brennan this match, this game.
Brontonon, of course, can kill Cast Out or Heart of Kirin at this stage.
Yeah, Glency Siphoner, a great card. I think, I think this is really complicated actually. So Brennan has another cast out, right? Okay, well,
it got less complicated.
solve that.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Things just got a lot less complicated. Vraska's Contempt going to take care of Teferi.
I'm just gonna let this play out. Things keep changing.
Yeah.
Things I say don't make any sense 2 seconds later. That's par for the course, though. Heart of Kirin, much less complex. Oh, here's a cool thing here. Brennan can actually crew his Heart of Kirin any number of times. If he chooses to, he can just crew it 4 more times, kill off Teferi, and that will make sure that the Vraska's Contempt is countered and doesn't gain 2 life.
Which is not nothing.
Yeah, I mean, James at 9, 2 life, could be the difference later on.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a cast out here in response.
Cast out on Brontodon doesn't seem terrible.
It could be on Vraska.
Yeah, but if you target the Vraska, I guess actually targeting the Vraska has high upside play of if you draw a way to kill the Brontodon, you get it all. Whereas if you take the Vraska, or vice versa, sorry. If you take the Vraska, you can draw something to deal with the Brontodon, right? You're more likely to deal with the Brontodon.
There's a pirate. All right, back over to DeCandio, and this is a big draw step here. Didn't get a great. It's Karn. Okay. All right. No, it's Teferi. Okay, never mind. Huh.
Can't quite take down the Vraska with the Heart of Kirin. I think this is very likely. Well, I thought it would be a tuck turn. You just want to get that Vraska off the battlefield. If you draw a brick, you might lose your Teferi.
Gets knocked Vraska down to 1, though.
Yeah. High risk, high reward. He's behind. Needs to.
And he'll untap 2 lands, pass the turn back. James will draw. Now, remember, James has been scrying and drawing a lot of cards all game long, so you have to imagine he's got something good in his hand at this stage.
Oh, for sure.
Well, Alexander Ferzola defeats Ross Merriam 2 games to 1. Humans is at it again, folks.
Told you wrong.
There is a fatal push to take care of Heart of Kieran, and now there goes Teferi as well.
Now, if I were James here, I would just play it safe. You know, I don't feel like you need to commit much of anything else to the battlefield. But, I mean, it's not that big of a downside because every creature you draw can draw a card, so it replaces itself.
And he will draw a card from playing the Glint-Sleeve Siphoner. And I think maybe here, Todd, this team of Roshan Eapen, Alexander Ferzola, and James Liu might be getting one step closer to winning this tournament. Cast out the draw.
I mean, with Alexander Ferzola taking down the Elf deck with Ross Merriam, I have to imagine that they are heavily favored to win this match now, especially considering the state of this particular game.
Yeah, where James Liu has really just been grinding away with Lifecrafter's Bestiary and all these other ways to draw cards. We see J-Light Ranger does a nice card drawing impression. He's got Thrashing Brontodon now resolving. It's not getting any easier, folks. He'll draw a card off of that.
Mechanically speaking, James has also played this game very well. You know, he's got a lot of moving pieces. You know, drawing a card almost every single turn with the Bestiary, scrying, keeping it clean.
Boy, look at all these things.
Even gets his treasure.
Yep.
Now, do you play around Settle the Wreckage? He's had that one card in hand for quite a while. I mean, if you get settled, you just have more mana to pay for Lifecrafter's Bestiary.
Yeah, I don't even think getting settled here is that big of a deal, as DeCandio will draw a card, show lands, and extend the hand. We have champions here, folks. It is Roshan Eapen, Alexander Ferzola, and James Liu. They're your champions here at SCG Baltimore. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, and condolences to me, having to listen to Tana complain about not having a trophy for another, infinity.
I think 3 really